By the time Joshua Hayes, a man who called himself the BossMan, muttered his now infamous complaint, "I can't even go on a holiday for a fucking week," the walls of his empire were already crumbling. He didn't know it then, but his downfall had begun months earlier, not with a raid or a betrayal, but with a quiet clink. Somewhere inside his sleek black Mercedes, Merseyside police had hidden a secret listening device. Every whispered deal, every coded threat, every casual boast about kilos of coke and concealed weapons was being captured, catalogued and used to build a devastating crime against him. For the man who saw himself as untouchable, whose voice commanded fear and loyalty in equal measure, it was the beginning of the end. Hayes was no small-time street pusher. At just 34, he climbed to the top of an organised crime group that operated with corporate precision and cartel-style ruthlessness. His world revolved around cash, coke and control, and he managed it all with the discipline of a CEO and the paranoia of a hunted animal. Police would later describe his network as a large-scale street-dealing operation, but those words barely scratched the surface. Hayes had built an empire. He controlled multiple drug lines across Merseyside, distributed high-purity coke by the kilo, and laundered his profits through the online bank accounts of people who owed him favours or feared him. He didn't just sell drugs. He ran an operation that touched every corner of Liverpool's underworld, a machine fueled by addiction, violence and greed. In his mind, Hayes was a businessman, but in reality, he was a drug dealer. So it was a conversation caught inside the Mercedes that revealed the first crack in his facade. June the 21st, 2024, Hayes and his trusted lieutenants Anthony Bennett, James Harrison and Georgie Medway sat together in a car discussing logistics. Not coke this time, but something deadlier. They spoke of hiring a plasterer, of creating a proper safe hiding place, a hole in the wall. What they were really talking about was concealing Scorpion submachine guns, compact, deadly weapons of war capable of firing hundreds of rounds a minute. These weren't props or status symbols. They were tools of control meant to intimidate rivals and enforce loyalty. Weeks later, following the thread from that single conversation, police returned to the nondescript flat in Litherland. It belonged to Michael Caldwell, a local drug user with ties to Hayes' crew. The apartment seemed ordinary enough, clean, newly plastered, faint traces of paint still clinging to the air, but detectives noticed something odd about one section of the wall. The plaster there was too smooth, too new, and they drilled into it. Behind the plaster was a hidden cavity, a void large enough to hold a small armoury. Inside were 3 carefully wrapped bundles, concealed within a T, like a gift. Each package contained a weapon, 2 checkmate Scorpion submachine guns, and a self-loading pistol. Along them lay a cache of expanding bullets, rounds engineered to explode on impact, inflicting catastrophic damage. Forensic teams moved in. Caldwell's DNA was found on the trigger guards, Medway's on the grip, and another young associate, Thomas Bell, a teenager barely out of school, had left his mark on the pistol. It was proof, if any was needed, that Hayes' operation wasn't about drugs, it was about power. He was arming himself to go to war. By now, police analysts listening to the recordings were beginning to understand just how vast Hayes' operation had become. Inside the book, Mercedes, his own words, painted a picture of industrial-scale supply. He bragged about running a phone line worth £200,000 and about moving a quarter kilo of coke every 5 days, a staggering amount for a single dealer. He boasted that his line operated from midday until 2 in the morning every day, and that he was the boss man. It wasn't just a nickname, it was a title, a self-declared title of authority over a small criminal kingdom. According to the prosecutors, Hayes and his crew had supplied around 9 kilos of coke between January and July 2024. And that was just the coke. There was heroin, there was cannabis, there was crack, cash, rivers of it flowing through Merseyside. In June 2024, Hayes did something rare for a man in his position. He actually took an holiday. He flew to Tenerife, leaving his empire in the hands of his 2 trusted subordinates, Stephen Sutter and John Newton. It's supposed to be a week of sunshine and luxury, but even criminal empires can crumble in a week. On the 20th of June, Newton was arrested in Formby, a seaside town north of Liverpool, and while riding as a passenger in a Ford Focus driven by Adam Dean. Inside the car, police found cash and, more importantly, the graph phone that connected Hayes' operation to hundreds of customers. The same morning as dawn broke over Merseyside, Hayes' plane touched down. He switched on his phone to chaos. Recordings later played in court captured the moment he learnt the news. Goes, "The work has been nixed with the phone, lad. John Newt's been driving around. I can't get hold of him, bro. I'm gonna smash them up, lad. What do you reckon I should do, lad? Wait till he gets out and see if you got the phone. I can't even go on fucking holiday for a week, bro." Hours later, he was seen at an O2 store in Aintree, pacing, agitating, purchasing a new handset and SIM card. Within hours, his drugs business was back online. The arrogance was staggering. The belief that he could simply outsmart the system by buying a new phone. But what Hayes didn't know was the real evidence. The bug in his car was still rolling, still listening, still recording his downfall in real time. So every empire leaves a paper trail, and Hayes was hidden in the glowing screens of fintech apps. He funneled tens of thousands of pounds through Monzo and Revolut accounts held by Kaylee Wilson, disguising drug profits as legitimate income. When he travelled abroad, to Tenerife, to Turkey, to anywhere the sun was warm and the authorities distant, he trusted hands to manage his business. One of them, Aaron O'Brien, took charge of the graph phone in his absence, and another sutter turned his own home into a bagging up station where coke was weighed, cut, and sealed in small wraps for street deals. But perhaps the most chilling discovery came in the second flat, which was called the so-called lab. The apartment belonged to Matthew Ball, known as the streets as G in the Wags. He was here beneath the hum of fluorescent lights and the chemical sting of ammonia. That coke was cooked into crack, the cheap potent variant that destroys lives faster than any other. When officers raided the flat, they found nearly a kilo of coke and cutting agents, digital scales, mixing bowls, and metal knuckle duster. The flat was eerily quiet, abandoned and hastened, and the air still smelt faintly of solvents and sweat. Meanwhile, James Harrison, one of Hayes' key associates, was running a separate operation in the background. His weapon of choice wasn't a gun or a graft, it was social media. Using Instagram and Telegram, Harrison advertised premium cannabis strains to an online clientele. He used emojis for prices, slang for weights, and encrypted chats for deals. In June 2024, he offered to supply more than 41 kilos of cannabis. Investigators estimate that over 6 months he could have distributed as much as 248 kilos, a staggering volume worth hundreds of thousands of pounds. Harrison was also caught on the bug accompanying Hayes and Bennett on a trip to Manchester, where the trio picked up 2 large carrier bags believed to contain cannabis for resale. So when the arrest finally came, they were swift and merciless. Investigators that began the whispers inside the Merseyside culminated in coordinated raids, forensic takedowns, and dozens of seizures. In court, Hayes cut a deflated figure, and he looked like a man that had already accepted defeat. The swagger, the confidence was all gone. In the end, he'd orchestrated his own downfall. So they were sentenced. So it goes like this. Matthew Ball of Croxteth, he admitted to supplying Class A drugs and he was jailed for 9 years and 2 months. Thomas Ball from Kirkby, he was handed 4 years in a Young Offenders Institute after pleading guilty to conspiracy to possess prohibited firearms and supplying Class A drugs. Then you got a guy called Bennett. He got 17 years and 7 months. Again, conspiracy to possess prohibited firearms, ammunition for sale or transfer, and also drugs. And you got Caldwell. You got 5 years. You got Dean, got 4 years and 8 months. You got Harrison, got 15.5 years. And you got Hayes, he got 20 years. You got Medway, who got 12 years. You got Newton, who got 4 years. You got O'Brien, got 6 years and 8 months and 4 years and 10 months, respectively. That's Wilson. And you got Sutter, who's got 6 years and 8 months. So Merseyside Police's Detective Chief Inspector Tony Roberts said following the hearing, "I'm in no doubt that communities across Merseyside are now safer, that these individuals are behind bars. Members of this OCG possess weapons such as a scorpion that they've been used to kill innocent people in Merseyside. Victims have died after being caught in the crossfire of disputes between two groups like this who depend on violence, threats, and intimidation to maintain their trade in illegal drugs. So many lives have been torn apart by OCGs, but we continue to work on a daily basis to rid our communities of them, bring offenders like these to justice, and remove the extremely dangerous weapons and illicit drugs they possess from circulation. So I want to thank all the officers involved in this investigation, and their dedication and commitment has led to this day, and it gives me great satisfaction to see their hard work pay off.